Good evening. My name is Matt VanDyken. I'm the Assistant City Manager here in Holland. What I would like to say is how proud I am of our staff and our community in dealing with this crisis. It's been unprecedented in its impact, and you will hear that throughout my presentation. The city and the departments that I will be outlining this evening have done a lot of hard work in the past. They've made investments in technology. They've worked hard to have fund balances to weather this crisis. And I'm just proud to be a member of that team. The 8th Street Farmers Market. With the help of Civic Center staff, we opened. In any other year, that would sound like not much of an accomplishment, but this year it was a huge accomplishment. We opened with limited access. We actually had a lot of help from the Civic Center Place staff to limit the access so that market could be safely open. This was a huge impact on many of our vendors. They only sell here at the Holland Farmers Market, and it allowed them to stay in business. One other impact that we saw this year at the Farmers Market was the huge impact to programs like the Double Up Food Bucks, where people that are food insecure we're taking advantage of these programs at the farmers market. We have programs in place where people that have a bridge card from the state of Michigan come into the office, they can get tokens, and they can shop in the Holland Farmers Market with dignity. I think that's very important. There's often a misconception that the Holland Farmers Market is only for people that have disposable income. And one of the things that we absolutely saw this year is that, yes, people that are food insecure are shopping down at the farmers market and getting quality, nutritious food. For next year, we're going to open the Holland Farmers Market safely. Whatever that looks like. We hope that by that time the vaccines will be out and enough of our people will have been vaccinated and are safe, that we don't have to open with the regulations that we did in the past. But if we do, we will do so. One of our goals for last year was evaluate options for increased programming. That did not happen. We were simply trying to remain open. So in the future, in the coming year, we'll look at increased programming at the farmers market, increased events. Do we do another night market if we're allowed to do that? So we're looking forward to the coming year to evaluate different things that we can do to bring more people downtown. The farmers market has an impact not only on the vendors that serve it, but also other businesses in our downtown and our community. Civic Center Place. As you all know, COVID basically shut the Civic Center down back in March. We've implemented things like the Smoke and Tulip restaurant, and we've increased marketing efforts to come out the other side. Unfortunately, the folks over there at VenueWorks have been dealing with a yo-yo of regulations over the past year. We can open, we cannot open, and we've had, obviously, all of the events canceled. The good news is a lot of those events have actually rebooked to next year, and we're seeing increased weddings being booked at the Civic Center for this summer. It's a big building, people can spread out. We'll also continue to invest in capital improvements at the Civic Center to increase the building's functionality and allow more events to happen once we can open. There's a pent-up demand for people to go out and be among other humans once they can do so safely, and I think the Civic Center is going to be a key place in our community to do that. We should note that VenueWorks has done a lot of the steps to mitigate the financial impacts of the crisis over there. All of their part-time staff were laid off early on. They furloughed some of their full-time staff, and the remaining full-time staff took a 20% pay cut late this fall. So they're doing what they can to mitigate what's going on over there. So our priorities for next year, market and program the venue under the realities of COVID. We don't know where we'll be, and that's very hard for them to schedule events month by month by month, but we're optimistic that by spring, summer, we will be having some of the larger events, and they are allowed to do some of the smaller in-person events now. One of the priorities for next year, as it always is to continue to work with the VenueWorks, with our contractor, and the Civic Center Place board to encourage the use of the facility by the widest spectrum of our citizens possible. The DDA, the Downtown Development Authority. Again, COVID has impacted them significantly. Staff did a great job throughout the pandemic to support changes in the downtown. We expedited permitting for signs, for sidewalk cafes, and the DDA recommended to City Council that we allow restaurants to move out into those parking spaces. The east end of 8th Street actually had a really neat vibe this summer. We had outdoor dining out there in a number of different spots, and it kind of had a different feel than a lot of the rest of 8th Street. So the DDA is supporting them. Our priorities for next year, continue to support our downtown merchants through COVID. We need to keep our merchants informed of everything that's going on. There are grants that are coming out from the state and the federal government. There's regulations that are coming down from the state and the federal government. We need to continue to work with them. We need to continue to reinvest in our downtown. We have a plan in place. We're engaging architects to do streetscape improvements in the downtown. We have challenges downtown with electricity at light poles and electricity to trees. We have some of the brickwork that needs to be addressed, and the Holland Smart Zone Authority actually gave us a grant to engage that architect and come up with a plan on how to do those improvements, and we'll continue to fund for those. Those streetscape improvements, the plan is to go and prepare. If we're going to touch the roadway, let's touch it once. Let's be cognizant of the financial impacts that COVID have had on our downtown merchants and make sure we do them no harm. But when we do touch it, let's make sure we're putting things in the ground that allow downtown to be future-proof. We don't know what downtown will look like in 20 or 50 years. We may have electric cars that can charge wirelessly in the parking spaces, for instance. We know we want to run electricity to all the street grates so that we don't have to have the extension cords for the holiday lighting that goes on downtown. So that process will include quite a few different people to make sure that we're future-proofing those downtown improvements. The principal shopping district. So in 2019, I came to City Council and spoke about how events like Girlfriend Week and the Street Performer Series are more popular than ever. In 2020, I come back and said, will be held when they safely can. So those downtown events that drew so many people to downtown and had these huge crowds, we obviously can't have. So we've had smaller events that support the downtown businesses, shopping events that are drawn out over a number of weeks instead of large crowds downtown for a couple of hours. Inclusion and diversity, those are efforts that will continue. We have subcommittees of the PSD that is working on that. That is a high priority for the principal shopping district. In 2019, we came when we discussed how retail is fragile in the Amazon area. That has not improved. We're going to explore new events and stabilize staffing. In 2020, we need to support our merchants, continue to do it as safely as we can. We need to hold events that allow those businesses to have people come down in a safe manner. The Amazon era has not decreased in pressure on our downtown merchants. As a matter of fact, I would argue that it's probably increased with COVID. We can't have events that attract large crowds. So what can we do to bring people downtown? And then once it is safe to have those large events, how do we do that and how do we promote that? Windmill Island Gardens. Again, this is going to be a 2019 versus 2020 preview. 2019 Windmill Island Gardens had the highest gate revenue ever. We reskinned the pavilion and the shops. We made some adjustments to the tulip fields because of high water. In 2020, we have the lowest gate revenue in memory. There was no revenue at tulip time. In 2019, our highest priority was water. We were concerned with water coming over the causeway. We were concerned with being able to have people go and walk around the island because it was so wet. And in 2020, we're concerned with COVID. COVID is going to provide us with an opportunity to look at how we staff the island. In every case where there's adversity, there is also opportunity. And we're going to reevaluate what we need to invest in at the island to bring people safely out there. We're going to look at how we do tours of the mill. The way they've done in the past may not be the way they've been done in the future. I have a couple charts here. You can see the yearly attendance for Windmill Island Gardens went from 117,000 in 2019 to 47,000 in 2020. So we've had a significant loss in revenue last year. In addition to the lower number of visitors, we also had lower costs to get in. We had reduced that because the attractions weren't open. So really that impact has been massive to Windmill Island Gardens. The good news is Matt Helmus out there has worked very hard over the past several years to build up a fund balance that has allowed Windmill Island Gardens to continue to function. They've dipped into that balance some, but they haven't had to come back to City Council and ask for additional funding. The next one is tulip time attendance. You can see in 2019, we had about 53,000 people come during the Tulip Time Festival. 2020, we had 0 paying customers come through at the Tulip Time Festival. The gardens were open. We allowed people to walk through, but none of the facilities were open. The restrooms were closed. The windmill was closed. The shops were closed. So we really had a significant financial impact out there. And again, kudos to Matt Helmus and the group